I don't promise miracles for people, but I have seen them happen with my clients. And I just ask whenever anyone comes, like, just be open to the possibilities here, because they truly are infinite.
So, Jill, thank you for spending some time with us today. Tell us a little bit about how Warrior Path. It's a non-for-profit organization that you've organized and started. And tell us a little bit about what you do with equine guided learning.
Well, Warrior Path Home just started this year, so brand new nonprofit for veterans, serving all veterans, so not just combat veterans, not just post 9/11 veterans. Some programs, they break their veterans down into categories, and some peacetime veterans aren't served. So I do work with all veterans and their families, and it is, as you said, not-for-profit, and it's also at no cost to the veterans. So the tagline is saving lives and inspiring hope for all veterans. And the goal is to bring inner peace and joy on an intangible level, but as more tangible level to help them reduce some anxiety, feel more calm and peaceful, help them with their financial situations, their jobs, their relationships, their families. Because really it boils down to what's going on inside.
Sure.
Help them reduce symptoms of PTSD. And so Warrior Path Home, I do coaching and equine guided learning. So through equine guided learning, I'm a coach through that too. Mm-hmm. And what coaching is really asking a lot of provocative questions, getting to the root of the matter. So provocative, people are like, ooh, that sounds kind of risque.
Yeah.
Well, it's really asking the questions that you're not going to ask yourself. And if you did, you probably aren't going to honestly answer yourself, because there's a part of you that hides the truth.
Sure.
And we're stuck in patterns and behaviors. So sometimes we have the awareness of what's happening, or we know we have a behavior or a issue that we can identify it, but we don't know how to get over it. So I help get to the root of the issue. So I like to call myself a root cause coach and help resolve these issues. So they're not just managing symptoms. The goal is to get sustained behavior change. And you had asked me how it got started. Yeah. Through networking in my for-profit business, which is called Haas Transformation, there were two individuals that connected me with people that had a similar program they were working with through Veterans Services in Livingston County. And it had to do with Veterans Treatment Court. I started showing up there and getting to know the veterans, the program, the way they were helping, and just watching these veterans blossom and shift and change. It was really neat to see their stories. And I also saw a great need. I saw a big gap between why they were even, getting in trouble with the law and what was going on prior to the military, post-military, and now. Mm-hmm. And that there's a big gap just in how they can get back integrated into life, and if they do or they don't. And it was just really interesting to me that some are able to just jump back into civilian life just fine, and some can't. And so that was very intriguing to me. And getting to know these veterans, I was able to start working with some of them in a coaching setting before the equine guided learning even came around. I was actually in training, I think, at the time. I fell in love with them. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with their passion, their determination, their willingness to do things. I mean, I've had this for-profit business with coaching for a long time, and not everybody is willing to do what it takes. Right. And these guys are willing, girls as well. Right. There's veterans, female and male. They're willing to do what it takes. And so 3 years go by, and I really want to help. And it was a struggle of trying to figure out the best way to do it, because a lot of these veterans who need the help, they don't have the money to do it. And I didn't really want to go working for an organization to, be one of their coaches, or I had my own ideas of what I wanted to do. Sure. And then this nonprofit came as an idea, like this could be a way that community could even help by supporting financially, somehow donating money, and then attracting the veterans that really are in need and have been either afraid to raise their hand. Some of them have a stigma around using Veterans Affairs. They have the benefits, and some of them have been there, done that. Some of them have a stigma, they've not even tried it, which, I don't condone the barrier there, but I see it. So I get it. And working with me and my processes and what I do is different. It's not counseling. It's not therapy. I don't diagnose. I don't treat, but I am helping them overcome their obstacles with learning new life skills, identifying patterns and behaviors that are holding them back. Because I guarantee whoever's listening to this right now, if they have a need, they already know that A, B, and C are the things that are holding them back. Mm-hmm. And some of them might even say, well, it's just me.
Right.
But it's like, well, how do you get me out of the way? And that's what I can help with. And so anyway, Warrior Path Home, I got the nonprofit certificate or the licensure in or status, I guess is really what it's called. I'm still new to this. In May of this year, had the ribbon cutting in November at the farm where we do the equine guided learning portion. And here we are. So 2020 is right around the corner. And I've got a lot of plans for marketing and getting some visibility and awareness.
Tell us a little bit more about how because the equine therapy is really, to me, an interesting aspect of it. How do horses help in therapy? What happens there? If somebody's coming in for a therapy session with you, what can they expect from that aspect?
Yeah. So, just to clarify, it's equine guided learning is what you're totally fine. And I don't mind that anyone calls it therapy because it truly is a therapeutic process, coaching and equine guided learning. And why horses is because horses are very grounding. They're very, they're present in the moment. It's one of the things that I think, as we evolve as a culture and a society, especially in the United States, I think Eastern world is on board with a lot of this present moment and meditation and quieting your mind. But the U.S. we've kind of gotten a little out of control with our mentality around got to be busy, 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 busy. It's almost a status to say how busy you are and how much you've got going on. And horses, they're not busy.
Too busy eating.
Right. They're grazing. They're going back to grazing no matter what happens. Even if there's like a gunshot that startles them, they look around, check their safety, and then they go back to grazing. They're not then having a conversation as a herd of like, oh my God, that was so scary. Can you imagine what could have happened if that got to us? They're not worried about that. Right. And so horses bring us into the present moment with them because one of the reasons, getting into a little bit of the behavior of horses is they are prey animals, meaning that they aren't predators of animals. They are an animal of prey. Sure. So not that we have a lot of wild, mountain lions running around or wolves there are coyotes. I don't know how many it would take to take down a horse, but, there are threats. And really, I think in captivity now, humans are the biggest threat to horses. Mm-hmm. But horses are, as a group, as a herd, they stay safe. And that's their main thing is to have balance so that safety, because safety is paramount. So they have balance and homeostasis within the herd and everyone's relaxed, everyone's calm, and they're conserving their energy so that if there is danger and they do have to flee, they've got it ready. So they're not expending that energy on, I said, gossiping and worrying about that gunshot that they just heard or the fact that so-and-so bit me yesterday in the butt. Like, what was that about? They're not worried about that. So when we get around horses, they help us come down. And there's been studies done on like heart coherence with horses and just animals in general. That's why I think pet therapy is so awesome. Just having a cat or a dog at home and petting lowers your blood pressure. Mm-hmm. And with horses, the unique thing about them is they have a heart that's proportionally larger to their body than say ours. Mm-hmm. And so they just have a larger heart and they are beating at a slower rate than we are. And when you get within a certain range of a horse, that heart coherence starts going. So I might be beating my heart fast because I'm having anxiety. Maybe I'm feeling stressed. Maybe I just have had chronic stress for years and it's just my norm. Mm-hmm. I'm just always beating at this rate. Well, we know stress is a killer. We know that, high heart rate isn't healthy. Sure. We know a lot of things about what is not good about our health, but we don't know sometimes how to change it. Well, walking into the pasture with a horse or even just standing at the fence line and a horse just being there and being in that presence and our heart starts to match. So their heart is going slow. I might be beating faster. And then I start slowing down and then I start taking some deep breaths and that's like biofeedback to the body. Like, oh, everything's okay. Mm-hmm. Everything's okay.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting too with horses is if you're riding and they're a little nervous, you take a deep breath and you just let it out slowly, and they do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a connection there between the human and the horse. And, it's interesting too. They're, like you said, they're prey. So like mountain lions attack, from the back, and they attack the back. And that's where we're sitting. So the trust there goes both ways between the human and the horse. So
absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because that reminds me of with the horses and the trust. And that's a big thing. Like, we can't come into their environment and be all like wired up on caffeine and expect them to want to cooperate with us, because we're posing a risk to them. But the one thing that is really neat when someone is having anxiety, or, and they take those deep breaths and they're doing that biofeedback to the body, and they get that sense of calm, and then horses, they really can mirror what we're doing. So you said they take a deep breath, or they do the same thing that we do, though they're giant mirrors
it's
to
fascinating.
us.
Like when you're riding, sometimes, you might be like, I had a trainer tell me, well, you're tilting your head at a funny angle, and the horse is doing it too. And it's true. It is really interesting how that is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was going to ask you too, where do you get your horses for the program?
So I'm on a farm right now. The family has donated their property and use of the farm to this program, which is phenomenal. So they have 3 horses, and then I have one of my own there. And horses all have different personalities. So, and of course, they're all different there. There's a full Arab, there's a half Arab, and then there's a paint and a quarter horse Arab. So there's a lot of high energy there with the Arabs. And the thing about Arabs, they're super sensitive. And I've noticed through the years of doing this with the veterans, I tend to attract really sensitive ones. And maybe there's the ones, maybe just in my research, unofficial research, is that the more sensitive ones tend to be more impacted by the what happened in the military. Maybe they were already feeling sensitive prior to that, and they didn't know it. And not that I'm saying that that's a weakness at all. If anything, it's a huge strength that they don't know how to tap into. But Cisco is my horse, and he's half saddlebred, half Arab, extremely sensitive. Those are 2, if you know horse breeds, they're 2 very hot breeds, very, very spooky, extra high alert. And I equate them to like German Shepherds, but German Shepherds have more fortitude, and they're like standing strong to the front line, whereas the horse is going to be like, out of here. I'm out of here. You can hold the line for me. But they're great at reflecting what's going on with the clients and their energy. In fact, one time I had a client enter the arena where it was, I think, his second time there. And Cisco reared. I had never seen him do this. Wow. Never. I've had him at the time for 4 years. I had never seen him do that. And I was like, did you see what he just did? And the client's like, yeah, it was no big deal to him. I was like, I got to tell you something. He never does that. I've never seen him do that, except maybe playing with other horses in the pasture. I was like, so what's going on? Well, he went on to tell me a story about what he was stressed out about that day. So, there was something that Cisco felt and was reacting to. And then later in the course of our session, he ended up leading Cisco around obstacles, and Cisco he brought himself down. Cisco, was like, rearing up just the one or maybe even a second time, just kind of halfway. But they ended up walking through the obstacles, and I even videoed a couple of the takes where their heads are low, the mirroring of the body language, and it's just really cool to see how that comes.
Do clients ride them or just do groundwork?
Thank you. Yes. I always forget to say that. It's groundwork, all groundwork. Down the road, I would love to do some kind of a riding group but the liability for that is so much higher than, totally different. So not yet, but that is a vision I have of, I'd love to have 8 to 10 horses in the herd. So right now there's just 4, but 4 is plenty right now. There's a couple horses I have my eye on to bring into the program. Again, just expanding the personalities and matching things with.
Are they usually retired, the horses? Retired from a...
Not necessarily. Yeah. I mean, So Cisco, obviously, he's not retired.
Right.
I definitely ride him. We've been doing trail riding since being at this new farm, and it's been a great experience for both of us. But the other three, they used to do shows and everything. They're kind of sort of retired for now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just kind of hanging out. But yeah, not necessarily retired.
And does the farm have a name that you're at?
I believe it's Carousel Farms.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're located in Pinckney, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Pinckney. Yep, off of M36. Yep, and it is a private residence, so please don't just show up without an appointment. I just want to say that one.
I want to pet the horses.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other thing that you mentioned too, while we were preparing, was that you don't just treat veterans, right? You treat their families, their children, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. So, working with veterans and their families, I have a family member client right now that I'm working with, and it's not all the veterans. Veterans can be impacted, and then when they're impacted, so are their spouses. Sometimes their children, maybe even their parents, are impacted because of the course that they took coming out of the military. So, yeah, there's certainly space and. I like to hold the space for the families and to get together. And I can do group sessions too. So if there is, like, say, a family of 4 that wants to reconnect and communicate better, it's a great way to do that. The horses are great with reflection. I already mentioned that, but they can show how we do or don't set boundaries, or how well we are, how well versed we are in setting boundaries, communicating that boundary, and enforcing that boundary. Like, we may say, like, yeah, I don't let anyone push me over, but it's, the actions speak louder than words, right? So a horse might show that boundary being pushed by nosing the person or literally pushing them aside with their head, and in training a horse, those things you really want to let happen. Right. But when we're in a program like this and we're facilitating a session, you let the horse do the reflection, and then you use that as an opportunity to say, okay, why do you think the horse just did that? Mm-hmm. Or what was that? Mm-hmm. And just let them tell you what was that. And I had a client coming where we had a bowl of food. Well, that wasn't a big bowl, but some treats in a pan on top of a barrel. Mm-hmm. And he was actually working on specific boundary issues with someone. And that was the symbol of the boundary, keeping the horse out of that. I was like, okay, so this is the boundary, is the food. How are you going to feel like that's you? Right. And the horse is the horse, they love treats. Sure. They love to eat. So It's the perfect thing to keep, so keep them away. And the way that the interaction unfolded was very telling about the strength of those boundaries. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to point anything out. It was all him to say, wow, this is what I do everywhere in my life. Oh, wow. He's like, he literally stood back, put his hands on his hips, and just was like, and looked down, like, wow.
Came to the realization on his own.
And so then that realization sometimes, because that's why they call it equine guided learning, because you're in the moment doing experiential learning, and there's up to a 90% retention rate with that.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're doing something and you have a breakthrough, or something even happens where it interrupts kind of a trance pattern, I'll call it, where we go into these thought patterns and behaviors that we do are all like trances that we're in. Right. And something funny can interrupt that trance, or just a horse acting silly can interrupt that, and just like, oh, and then so suddenly we somehow snap, we shift, the pattern drops, it changes. Hard to explain, but I've seen a lot of things. I don't promise miracles for people, but I have seen them happen with my clients, and I just ask whenever anyone comes, like, just be open to the possibilities here, because they truly are infinite when we're working in either the coaching capacity, where we're doing one-to-one coaching, or we are adding the horses. Okay. It's totally possible.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, and I'm curious, you do a remote coaching?
Oh, yeah, virtual coaching.
Virtual coaching.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I do web conferencing for clients who aren't here. In fact, I have a Canadian veteran right now who's a client, and the the way the internet works is so awesome because we can do things over the internet and not have a cost of long distance. We can see each other. We don't have to be in the same space. And the thing about coaching is it's literally creating a container for change. Mm-hmm. And you know, so you might say, well, give me a list of those questions that those provocative questions that you want me to answer. Just give me that list. Well, it's totally different because if I just give you that list mm-hmm. and you answer those questions, you're going to do it in the privacy of your own mind. Sure. And you're going to maybe answer, maybe not, or maybe half-ass it even. But when we're in this coaching space, like this is a container that I've created virtual. And I'm asking you these questions where now I'm holding the space for you. I'm holding the space for truth, possibility. In fact, I do it where my belief is maybe even greater than yours in this moment. So I know it sounds a little woo-woo maybe, but this to me is like I hold the belief that this is powerful. And then I'm asking you these questions and we're going to pull out those answers. But the difference too, when we're answering verbally versus out loud mm-hmm. versus in our head, especially to another, we're accountable to that. But it's a very different answer. We might even verbalize the thing that we've been saying in our head over and over every day. We answer it differently and we surprise ourselves like, whoa, I don't even know that I want to do that anymore. Or that doesn't even sound right. I can't believe I just said that. And it's like, whoa, but you've been holding all these things in your mm-hmm. mind. Your subconscious patterns are going all on their own. And this is a great way to have that awareness to say, oh, geez, I really do want to change that. And when we change those patterns that aren't serving us, we get to experience more, joy, beauty, whatever you want to call it, anything good that you want when we can shift those patterns that aren't serving us. Yeah. I could go on about this for hours because I'm very passionate. So I'm like stopping myself there.
Oh, it's fascinating stuff. And I could listen for hours. Absolutely. Because it is truly fascinating.
I am really passionate about helping these guys and girls who are hurting because I know they're not just physically suffering with their maybe physical issues. They're emotionally suffering. They're spiritually suffering. And I really believe that that everything they need is right within them. And they just need a little
coaching.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a different word, but yeah, a little coaching, like coax it out of them. Mm-hmm. Like it's in you. I know it's there. And sometimes, this Canadian veteran, actually, he had some pretty big breakthroughs, I would say, in the last couple of weeks. And I am so proud of him. And we've never met in person. We've only seen each other on virtual. And he seems to be just so joy-filled. And he asked me, he's like, I don't know what, he goes, you're onto something. And that's been on my mind for the last couple of weeks. Like, well, what is it that's different? What shifted? What was it? Mm-hmm. And if I were to put something that I did on it, because I know it's not me, but it's the only thing that I could really come up with, because I'm like, this is what I do with everybody. And it was that I just believed in him, maybe more than he believed in himself sometimes. Sure. And I loved him more than he loved himself sometimes. Sorry. So, so that's it. Like I said, I fell in love with these veterans and I really want to help them. And I know that it could just change people's lives, enrich families, and just bring more peace to the community.
Well, there is a special place in the world for people who help veterans. And so thank you very much.